Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to our LinkedIn Live series. If you're new here, I host these every first Thursday of the month for advisors who want to grow their brand and their business with more clarity and authority and intention. And I am so freaking thrilled you're here. Your comments and insights on these last few lives just have made everything so entertaining and illuminating for not only for me, but for everyone here. So, thank you. Thank you for joining me here again today. And if you could, of course, let me know that you can hear me and see me okay. I just so appreciate that in the comments, just to let me know everything's kicked off okay. And of course, like tell me where you're from. We have had folks from all across Canada and the US. And I mean, even last time you guys wowed me by, England and Dubai and all over the place. So say hi and drop your city and let's see how global we are today. I just so appreciate it. And I know I've got a new mic and I'm playing with it and I keep touching the mute button. So I'm a little nervous for this one this time. I hope I haven't done that this time here. Let me just make sure. Hearing and seeing you okay from Atlanta. Thank you so much, Donald. You're the best. So yeah, let's start there. I definitely want to hear where everyone's from. Because I'm gonna kick this one off a little bit different, a little personal this time, a little maybe uncomfortable, right? Well, probably just uncomfortable for me because I'm going to be sharing my story. And it is about a major turning point in my life that led me to this work and honestly led me to the belief that niching down isn't a risk. It's actually the key to unlocking your greatest impact. And so go ahead and type your location in the chat here while I take a breath. I don't know about you guys, and I don't know why, but writing about this emotional stuff is so much easier than talking about it. So please excuse my awkwardness, but if you're more of an emotional writer than speaker, I feel you, I see you. Go ahead and drop writer in the comments so I know I'm not alone here, right? Loud and clear from Milton. Thank you, Sean. I so appreciate it. But we can do hard things, right? We can talk about this stuff. So let's get into it. Let's go. We've got an hour tops, and I want to make sure that we give you guys enough time to chat in the comments, to ask me questions. So let's get into this. So I grew up in East London, Ontario, east of Adelaide. We call it EOA, which is definitely a place, if you know, better known for its chaos probably than its charm. My parents, they were blue collar immigrants. And so for us, money was always tight. And my mom, she was a nurse and she actually pushed through her physical disability until she literally couldn't work anymore. And then my dad, he ended up having a massive stroke. So overnight, our only income was gone, right? No insurance, no backup plan. And to make matters worse, we found out that his stroke was actually caused by a rare hereditary disease. Um, One that obviously, like myself and my siblings, could potentially have too. And like we were completely unprepared. And you might be thinking, like, how are you unprepared? It's a hereditary disease. You should be prepared. But my dad's mom passed away from cervical cancer fairly young. And it turns out that she was the carrier of this rare neurological disease called CADASIL. Um, yeah, and feel free to drop unprepared in the chat if you've ever had like a life moment like this that just like completely blindsided you because that's what we were. We were completely blindsided. And so, anyways, it was bad times, right? I had literally just graduated that year. I had just got into marketing and felt like I had barely, like barely started my life. And now it just felt like I had this like noose around my neck, which sounds a bit dramatic. But guys, this disease is actually terrifying. You build up plaque in your arteries of your brain that actually starve oxygen. And so you could suffer from migraines and like hallucinations, strokes obviously, which bring their own like mixed bag of mental and physical disability, and dementia. And I'm talking like all in your like late 30s, right? Like soon. and and most were are passed away by the time they're in their late 50s. So needless to say, it was a lot. My family was going through a lot. And it wasn't really until my boss referred me to his financial advisor that things started to shift. Yeah. Blindsided twice with cancer. I'm fine. Oh, Donald, I hear you. And I should mention, I have got tested. I'm fine too. Thank you for that prompt, Donald. Because I don't want people to be wondering, like, is she dying right now? No, she's not. um, but like, I mean, I went to this financial advisor and I assumed he was just doing his client a favor. And I mean, like he was. But this advisor, his name was Vic, he like showed up for me. He shared that his own father had also had serious health issues. And honestly, like I just felt like he got it. He understood where I was at that moment. And like his empathy turned into a plan, right? Like insurance policies, financial education. And for me, like biggest of all was getting back like a sense of control because you can imagine what my brain was probably going through at that moment, right? And so that meeting, of course, lifted like 1,000 pounds off my shoulders, but it also taught me something that I never forgot. That the right advisor isn't just someone who like gets the numbers, right? The right advisor is someone who understands you. And that became the foundation of everything I do now, right? Helping advisors to stop being generalists and instead become the like exact guide someone else is desperately searching for, right? The advisor who works with parents of kids with disabilities or the anti-retirement advisor who's now helping people in like their refirement stage, the advisor who's known as the strategic generosity advisor. If any of these guys are on the call, hi guys. Hi ladies. um, Another of my client helps other LDS women, find new purpose after divorce. A SaaS founder helping other SaaS founders diversify and mitigate risk, and on and on. You get the point, right? But these are just a few of the advisors that I've worked with to bring out their specialization. Like, what's different about them? Who is it that resonates with them or can resonate with them? Who is it that they connect best with? And so, if you've had a moment, that completely shifted your life or your views or your career, go ahead and just drop that word moment in the chat because I want to see the turning point people, right? Like I want to know and I hope you're here listening today because it's it's stories that like mine that like really drive you um to keep going uh when things get hard, right? Hi Natalie. Hello, hello. Here from Winchester. Thank you. And you know what? Sometimes it shows up LinkedIn user. But I've had a few people after our conversations that have let me know like who they are. So if that's Julie, hi Julie. So that was my turning point, but it's not just my story, right? Like I've seen this pattern play out over and over and over again with advisors and their clients. So what's the problem, right? Like why wh- what are we talking about then? Well, the problem is that there isn't enough of you. There isn't enough of you willing to go there. And let me show you where the actual disconnect really is. Right? We all want to find our people, right? We all want to be instantly understood. Right? And this includes our financial advisor. Financial advice is so personal. And so this applies to financial advisors more so, maybe like more so than anyone else we work with. And so clients want advisors who understand them deeply, right? And advisors, they want the right clients, but they keep missing each other. Why? Right? Because these best fit advisors are hidden among like generic positioning and messaging because they're afraid to miss out on opportunities, right? They keep offering themselves, these advisors who are afraid to miss out on opportunities keep offering themselves as jack of all trades, right? They stand for nothing in particular, they're known for less. And when they say that they're the best at it all, right, trust is going to erode before the relationship even gets started. And here's the thing no one wants to believe, but it's the absolute truth. You don't lose clients to better advisors. You lose them to better storytellers, right? You lost them to someone who built a better connection because your story only resonates when you own who you're for and who you're not for. And so if you're in the middle of figuring it out right now, right, figuring out who you're meant to serve, who you connect with, just type me in the chat, right? Because you're certainly not alone. Definitely not alone. Hi, Hitesh. Thanks so much for joining. So, but I get it, right? I do get it. I don't want people to think that I don't understand the fears. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, right? You're probably worried, first and foremost, that this means turning people away, right? And ending up with fewer clients ultimately. Well, what I want to talk about is all the paradoxes, right? Because ironically, this the opposite is true, especially of this one, where you're afraid of turning people away, you're afraid you'll have fewer clients. The complete opposite is true. Because when you focus on a well-defined niche, right, your marketing sharpens. You speak directly to the problems that your ideal clients face, right? Like you stand out. And so the first paradox I want to kind of talk about is this: shrinking your focus grows your business. And that sounds kind of backwards, right? But let's do the math. If you close, say, just like 1 in 10 warm conversations, or even like 1 in 20, how many of those conversations do you think you actually need a year? Right? 20? 30? That's not a stadium, right? That's a room. That's a room. So the question is, it well, it's not how do I attract thousands, right? It's how do I attract the right dozens, right? And when you get known for one thing, right? Three things actually tend to happen. One, prospects, they recognize themselves in your message a whole lot faster, right? They put themselves forward. They have faster sales cycles. Two, refers know exactly who to send your way, which is just like a happy, happy bonus. Because that's a whole lot less work on your plate, right? And three, you stop wasting energy explaining your value from scratch, which is never fun. Jeff says marketing to one specific group doesn't mean you can't or won't deal with anyone else. Yeah, exactly. It really doesn't. In fact, like I always talk about this, that you actually end up attracting more because it's like what ends up happening is people think, well, if he's a specialist for them, if he can do it for them, he can probably do it for me, right? And so it absolutely doesn't mean that you can't work with anybody else. And funnily enough, you end up making people think, wow, well, like if he's that guy for them, I'm easy, right? It's funny how that happens. But like take Brian, who was a generalist for like 10 years. The second he focused on helping corporate employees kind of figure out how to leave their 9 to 5 and start businesses, his calendar filled up with like burned out executives who finally felt seen, right? That wanted to build a life that they didn't need a vacation from. And that was his positioning. And so that's the first fear, right? Fewer clients. And I hope I've done a good job of explaining how the exact opposite is true in a lot of ways. But this is just like scratching the surface, right? Yeah. There's there's so much more and I'm going to keep going layers deeper. But if you guys have any questions or comments about that first one, kind of like or if you're still nervous about having fewer clients and I haven't alleviated your fears, like ask me the question. Let's go. Let's chat about it. Right? That's why I like doing these lives even more so than my speaking events because I get the opportunities to talk about what's going on people's brains, like right now, have a conversation. And I love that engagement part of my talks. I actually do quite a few of that. Save some time at the end of my speaking events to ask questions and get some conversation going because that's my favorite part. So feel free. So now, I guess there is there is a another paradox, right? Like there is this fear that speaking to fewer clients, or if I niche, I'll scare off high net worth clients, right? So let's talk about that one. When you're dealing with like seven-figure decisions, it's generality that doesn't feel safe, right? Generality feels expensive. It's depth that is what buys confidence, right? So I see, well, here's what I see in like top performing advisors. They're almost always known for something specific, right? A speciality or a problem that they solve, a group that they're trusted in. Um, and that's clarity is what makes them referable, right? In these advisors that are known for something specific. And so like referrals are still the number one way for affluent clients to choose an advisor, right? Like type yes in the chat if your best clients come through referrals. Cuz I know that's true for a heck of a lot of you, right? And according like I've talked about this before, but according to CEG worldwide, 70% of top financial advisors earning like 1 million or more a year serve a niche. Now, I know, right? I know correlation isn't causation. Somebody's going to tell me that in the conversation in the chat. But it does tell us something, right? It does tell us that the best they don't try to be everything to everyone. right? They know that authority comes from depth, and depth attracts the right clients. Yes, Beverly, thank you. Yes. So, I mean, because if you think about it, let's think about this chain of events, right? Specialization builds authority, right? Authority creates trust. And trust is what opens the door to these bigger clients and deeper relationships, right? That's just how it works. And so, what actually happens when you try and speak to everyone? You dilute your message. You stop sounding expensive or exclusive, and you're not speaking to the real problems that high net worth individuals are solving, right? Succession, legacy, liquidity, philanthropy, right? So the irony is that the more specific you are, the more like exclusive you sound. And exclusivity is what attracts the affluent. Right? That's not new. That's not my thought. It's just the truth. But let me give you an example, right? One advisor that I worked with, she was actually worried that like women over 50 wasn't high net worth enough. And she almost abandoned it. But when we had a conversation, she leaned into her own story of becoming the breadwinner and finding her voice. And so she resonated with these other female executives who've done the same thing. And those women invited her to speak at leadership events. And guess what? Those events became referral engines, right? Affluent women in her exact target audience started filling her pipeline. Not because she was broad, right? But because she was unmistakably relevant to them. That's the key. Someone says, it's coming up, LinkedIn user again. Sorry. My best clients have come from introductions by other clients. 100%. Yep. So here's the paradox of this one, right? By speaking to fewer, you don't repel high net worth, right? By speaking to specifics, you don't repel high net worth. You actually attract more of them, right? And I'm happy, again, to chat more about this. We can go even deeper if you want, but I hope that makes sense to people, right? For anybody who just knows how behavioral psychology works, that's just the truth. People want what they can't have, right? People like exclusivity. But let's talk about the sneakiest fear of them all, maybe, right? Imposter syndrome. You didn't think I was going to get through this whole talk without talking about imposter syndrome, did you? Now, I know it's kind of cliche, but I'm hoping I'm going to come at this from a little bit of a different angle. Um, yeah. Even for me, like, even if you understand the first two paradoxes right now, right? You might still be thinking, like, but I'm not expert enough to claim a niche. This has literally been the same fear for everyone I have worked with. So if this is going through your head, like, I understand that fewer clients, that doesn't happen. I understand I'm not going to, turn away high net worth clients by doing this. But in my brain, I just don't feel like I am expert enough to do blank, right? Literally all of us go through that. Literally all of us. So you are not alone. But the irony here is that specialization is actually the fastest path to expertise. And I know that sounds backwards, but it's absolutely true. right? When you go deep on one group or one problem, right, something really powerful happens. You start recognizing the same problems over and over and over again, right? Your stories, now they start to get sharper. Your insights start to become like impossible to ignore because people are thinking in their heads, that's me, right? And that's not instant expertise, right? It's just pattern recognition. And like confidence, that doesn't show up before you niche, like for that reason, right? You can't get that pattern recognition down if you don't show up, right? So confidence doesn't show up before you niche, it shows up because you niche. And if anybody agrees with that, go ahead and give me a heck yeah. Yeah. So look, you're not hunting for the perfect positioning initially, right? Like everybody kind of wants to like get it perfect before they go out. It's not possible. You can get it as close as you can. You're starting with resonance and then you're just refining it through real conversations, right? Because niche expertise is earned in the doing. You're only going to get better by doing it. It's funny. Our last live, we had a conversation with Carl, and we talked about kind of like the only way to get it done is by playing in traffic. Um, so if any of you from the society are here, hello. um, but it's so true. Like you have to absolutely play in traffic to know what's out there. Niche expertise is earned in the doing. And like you don't have to do it all or figure it all out on day one. That's not what I'm saying at all. Yeah. You just need to commit to resonance, right? Which is like showing up, to listening, refining. And these patterns that I'm talking about, they build themselves if you stay consistent. They become really easy to hear if you stay consistent. I mean, it might take a year, it might take 2, but you're going to hear it. And you refine it and you do more and then you refine it again, you do more. That's how advisors become the guy for this problem or these people or the girl, the woman, I should say, for this problem or these people. And so maybe I give you another example here because I know everybody likes advisor examples. But I had another advisor who actually used to panic before prospect meetings. Panic every single time. And this very introverted but highly intelligent guy, highly intelligent, was really uncomfortable with not knowing what questions would come up and like how to position himself on the fly. And I talked to him about the power of this. And, you know, once he actually niched into medical professionals and specifically psychiatric nurse practitioners, he started seeing the same financial and career patterns on repeat, like the same desires, the same like financial issues over and over. And he built a framework tailored to helping them transition into private practice because that's what they wanted. They wanted to transition into private practice and become entrepreneurs. So he developed a framework for that. And suddenly he knew exactly what to say, right? And where to find his audience. And like, thank goodness, his nerves disappeared, right? Like and I don't, not because he was pretending in any way, right? But because he was prepared, a whole lot more prepared. And that is the third paradox, right? That specialization, it doesn't expose you, right? And that's a lot of the fear behind imposter syndrome, that like somehow people are going to know that I'm an imposter and I'm going to be found out, or somebody's going to ask a question that I don't know, right? But specialization doesn't expose you. It equips you, right? You start to know exactly who you're going to have conversations with, and you start to have those conversations, and the patterns start to emerge, and you're answering the same things over and over again. Your stories get sharper, um, and the confidence builds, right? The confidence builds, but so it doesn't expose you; it equips you. Is this making sense so far, guys? Right? Like, what do you guys think? Are you convinced? Is it making sense? Right? That it's so funny that these fears that we have, and I mean, those are the three biggies, right? Um, you'll get fewer clients, you'll have to turn some away, or um, it means that you won't be doing work with anybody else. So not true. The exact opposite happens. Or that like all of a sudden you're gonna have to turn down these like high net worth clients, or you won't be for high net worth clients. When again, the exact opposite happens. You end up, you know, positioning yourself for exclusivity. The high net worth clients, they want someone who deeply understands kind of the issues, unique issues that they go through, and whether or not you can speak to that. And this last one, right? This last one's a biggie. It's why everybody talks about it, imposter syndrome. But honestly, specialization doesn't expose you, it equips you. It's funny how the exact opposite is true. And so that's why I call this the paradox of niching down, because it's entirely paradoxical, right? So if you guys have questions, let me know. I am happy to, or feel free to DM me too. Like, I know some people aren't entirely comfortable with revealing fears and insecurities. I get that. So this is going to be a tough one, but this might also be a quick one for us today, guys, because if we're talking about your fears, but if no one's, going to come out and say, this is what happened to me, or this is what I'm going through right now, and kind of wants to put themselves forward to have a conversation about it, absolutely no problem at all. Let's take it to the DMs, and we'll just make this a quick one. Happy to make it a quick one. And sorry for anybody who's joining late, but if this is just a quick one, that just means that the replay will be up on LinkedIn Live under my, in my profile on the events page sooner. And for anybody who's registered, it shows up on your events page too, right? So you can continue to rewatch. So what is the path forward, right? We've talked a lot about some of these fears. And what I'm seeing all the time, to be honest, is that I see advisors who say they have a niche, but what they really have is a demographic, right? A whole demographic. So like, I serve millennials, or I serve women, or I serve business owners. That's hard to have like deep expertise in. Or I'm not sure people believe you, right? Because you're not getting to it. You're not getting specific. It's a starting point, but it's not a finish line, right? In other words. So true niching for advisors is personal. It's emotional. It's specific. It requires you to evoke emotion to build trust. B, speak to real problems with empathy. And C, position your story as proof that you are the natural fit, that you are the authority in this, and that you understand. So here's some, meat. Here's a quick self check if you're not sure, or if you think you have a niche and you're not 100%. Ask yourself a few questions, right? Ask yourself, can I name a clear audience, right? Not just a demographic. Can I name my ideal client profile in like one sentence? Yes or no? Another question, it could be, can I describe a specific pain that they feel and like why they feel that? Another one could be, do I have a story or a connection that makes me the obvious guide over everybody else? Or just makes me the obvious guide, right? Do I know where to find them? Right? Do I understand what conferences they attend, what magazines that they read, what groups they're a part of? Can I say those things? Can I actually get specific and name them? Because if not, you might not have a niche. And last is like, you probably the biggest question you might want to ask yourself is, could I become known as the advisor who blank in that space? If like, can you fill in that blank? Right? If not, you probably don't have a niche. So test yourselves. Let me know. So Beverly says, so what are the steps to choosing your niche? Yes. Well, that's a really great question, Beverly. Do I give away my entire methodology? Yes, I do. I do. I give that to people who've joined the Power Network. I give that to people who are signed up for my newsletter. I talk about it all the time. I talk about um, going from having a mega market to a market segment to a market niche and what those three things are. And I've sort of given it away here while I'm talking about it. Right. And I've talked about it all the time too on some of my content. Really, it's like the mega market is, can you find them, right? Do they consider themselves a group? And if they consider themselves a group, then they, like I said, they have associations, they have events, they have magazines, they have groups, you can find them both online and offline. Then kind of take it down to another level. Like what personal do you have in common? What is that something that you can resonate with them or what is it that about you that they will resonate with, I should say? What is it that you can connect on? Now, so many advisors want to skip this step. They don't think it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary for authority and trust. If you don't know what that is, or it doesn't make sense with your niche, you might not have the right niche, right? Maybe we need to look at it again. And then you kind of get down to the mega market, which is like, okay, now that I know those two things, you've gotten down to that niche funnel, right? You've got the mega market, you've got the market segment. Now you're kind of looking at it like, what's my market niche? What part of that can I own? Right? That's the next question. Could I become known as the advisor who blank in that space? That's the third step. So it's in these questions lies the answers to these three steps. If you can answer those questions, you've done it. Right? So I've given you all the fears and kind of, the paradoxical kind of mindset around them, right? That actually the exact opposite is true. I've given you all the questions to test yourself about whether or not you actually have a true niche or not. I've given you the 3 steps to niche down right? And so I hope this is helpful. And this, I get it's hard though. I get it's hard to do on your own, especially, that element of self reflection is super difficult. And it's the reason why I'm employed, right? It's the reason why I have a business. And I help advisors do this in three different ways. I help them um, completely one on one in my sprints, done for you. You do the talking, I do the figure out. I put together the playbooks for you on niching, branding, marketing. Um, if you want more of a done with you kind of accountability, we figure out your niche and then you kind of go into my group kind of for peer feedback on your brand and your marketing and accountability every single week. And then there's like the done do it yourself, which is take my course, walk through the workbooks, do it yourself, answer all the questions. Um, and if you want to join the Power Network to continue to learn about these things, I will continue to send out, some of the wins, some of the success stories, as well as I bring kind of marketing experts together to chat about, um, what's going on in advisor marketing and how to stay ahead of trends, as well as like bringing people together. That's what the network is primarily for. It's to bring niche advisors together, as well as people in advisor marketing who help niche advisors do even more to continue to grow their brand and their authority. Um, and so that's how I help. But I'm more than willing to give it away, right? I'm happy to explain the steps. But because here's the paradox we've been talking about all along, right? It's a really noisy industry. It can be super salesy, hustly, competitive. It can. Um, but the moment you narrow your focus is the moment your impact expands in this business. And I truly, honestly believe that the future of financial advice is here. And I know a lot of advisors are on the same page. So if you want to see how I help advisors do this in real time, join me, right? Join me inside the Power Network on Substack. It's free to join, right? It's where we turn clarity into authority and authority into opportunity. So I hope that's helpful. And I want to go ahead and make sure I've answered all the questions. I'm going to take a quick look at the comments. Feel free to add your questions, your concerns. And I mean, some people just want to understand how I think about these things, and I get that, and how I help advisors. Um, and so if this makes sense and you want to chat more, but you don't want to like reveal yourself, go ahead and DM me. Let's chat. Alrighty, everyone. I am I'm gonna jump off, I think. Right? I am happy to take this further with any of you. You can always jump on for a quick coffee chat with me. We'll chat about what's going on with you for about 15 minutes, and I can let you know which I think might be best for you, right? Done for you, done with you, do it yourself. There's a lot of different avenues to get this done. And um, and I'll let you know what the best one is for you. All right. So feel free to DM me. We'll take the next step. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. I love doing this and having you here. And we'll see you next time on the first Thursday of October, which I think is October 2nd. All righty. Bye, guys. Oh, sorry. I'm missing Katie. If I make my niche about women in life and in life stages, will that turn men away from me? Hmm. Not all men. Um, are you worried that you'll only get the wife and not the husband? Or and I honestly believe the same's true. Like there's going to be a problem that you're focusing on for women just like, my client Erica that I was talking about before. Um you won't her content doesn't turn men away from her. It just um it has just given her a bigger voice in women's spaces. And so that has only accelerated her business. So she's actually doing more of what she loves. Yes, she has more women than men. Yes, she attracts more women than men. But she loves working with women, so it's not a problem. She gets a lot more women now. And so she she wasn't concerned about the fact that she's getting a lot more business and that business is with the women, women in leadership that she really loves to work with, and she wasn't exactly getting the men. It didn't matter because she was doing more more business with the people she wanted to work with. Does that help, Katie? I hope it does. I'm planning on working with women who have gone through divorce or inherit money or just a single woman with no direction. Women typically rely on men for financial everything. So I think I've worked with I've worked with two other advisors who have talked to women about divorce, and obviously there's certifications and whatnot for that you can get for this. It is I will say it is a very dense niche, right? Like there are a lot of people who want to focus on women who are in divorce, and it's not easy. Um, there's I mean, if you're dealing with high net worth divorce, like there's quite a bit of hand holding. And so you also have to be prepared for that. So it depends on what kind of target audience you're going after. Um, but I would say you probably need to get a little bit more specific there. And why is it that you feel like you can resonate best with these women? Right? Like my other example, um, was of a woman who was LDS, Latter day Saints, who works with women going through divorce. Now, that is kind of a faux pas in her community, and so her having gone through that herself and rebuilding her life and also helping these women not only on the financial side but also on like career coaching and things like that, that's what makes her unique. And so her story and her education combined gave her a very unique niche. And so again, I would go back to what is it about you and your story that you feel like these people will connect with? So step number 2. Katie says, "Gotcha, that sounds good." Great. Amazing. Okay. Well, if that's helpful, like I said, feel free to chat about these things, not on a live, with me kind of one-on-one. We'll have a coffee. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.